Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning as we are studying together a new Perashat Vayeshev, and as well we have the holiday of Hanukkah coming up. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Florence. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה baro. Today's class is sponsored anonymously for the Refuah Shlema of all of Am Yisrael, for the safety, for protection, for the success of our soldiers, the Refuah Shlema of all the Cholim, and for the return of our hostages. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should see Yeshuot Tovot, Besorot Tovot. We should be zochet to a Chanukah miracle this year, Bayamim Hahem Bazeman Hazeh, like we had many years ago, where God delivered the many in the hands of the few. And we know today we are few. We are nowhere near the billion that the Arabs have, that the Goyim have, that are trying to pull us down, whether it's physically, whether it's spiritually, whether it's through social media or the PR war that we are losing tremendously. But Hashem should give us the strength, the resiliency, the courage to be able to fight and to know that we can never lose our spirit. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Okay, here we go. Perashat Vayeshev. Perashat Vayeshev, my friends, is a very packed parasha. A lot going on. Pasuk begins, Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megurei aviv be'eretz Canaan. Parasha begins that Yaakov Avinu finally settles in the land of Israel. And the word settles, of course, has a connotation of relaxing. Yaakov Avinu wanted to finally just sit and relax. Bikesh Yaakov lashevet b'shalva. I think I deserved it, Yaakov said. Some retirement. I worked my whole life. I built a whole family, and whole empire. After what I went through, after what I struggled and suffered, I came to this country with just pennies in my pocket. And look what I built, look what I accomplished, look what I achieved. I think I deserve some peace and quiet. Fighting with Esav, fighting with Lavan, and Dinah, and everything that he went through, and all the struggles in between from day to day. And Yaakov just wants some tranquility. And of course, the next pasuk says, Ele toldot Yaakov, and this is the story of Yaakov. Yosef ben Sheva Esrei Shana, Yosef, who was 17, who was a shepherd for his brothers, and the story, we know how it plays out. Unfortunately, Yosef ends up being sold. And Orah Hayim over here says, I don't understand. What exactly is how am I supposed to understand the first pasuk? The word toladot, it's not the first time Parasha begins this way. We had it back, Ele toladot Noah, Ele toladot Yitzchak. We had this word, and each time we explained it differently. But however you translate the word toladot, whether it means children, whether it means story, whether it means deeds, whatever you explain toladot to mean, we'll have a difficulty here. Because Orah Hayim, as he points out, why are you only listening to me, his son Yosef? You know, if you tell me about his son, he had 12 of them. Why are you only telling me about one of them? Okay? Rabotenu Amru, our rabbis tell us, Ki yikaven lomar shehu ikar. The reason the Torah goes on to list only Yosef, even though he had many more children, right? These are the children of Yaakov, but it only goes on to list Yosef and his story. It's because Yosef, I guess you could say, is the core of the family. As an example, the Midrash tells us that Yosef repeatedly comes to save the day. If we pay attention, it's only when Yosef is born that Yaakov decides it's safe to leave Lavan's house and head back home. And he could confront Esav once Yosef is born. So you see Yosef stepping up over here. His birth alone is enough to give Yaakov the ability to fight Esav. As well, we find Yosef is the one who brings down his family in a dignified, respectable way to the land of Egypt. Of course, Yosef sustains his family in the land of Egypt during the 7 years of famine. And finally, the sea splits in the merit of Yosef HaTzadik. So Yosef is constantly, again and again and again, saving the family. So that's one answer. Yosef is the main guy. Okay? There's 12 brothers, but Yosef's the main one. Some say that Yosef is the one that's singled out because Yaakov's offspring is very, very identical to Yosef in the fact that everything that happened to Yaakov happened to Yosef. Their lives were very identical. Rashi over here brings a few examples, but there are 24, my friends, no less than 24 comparisons. We're not going to list them all now, but 24 comparisons between Yaakov and Yosef. So as an example, Yaakov was hated, Yosef was hated. Yaakov was chased by his brother. Yosef was chased by his brothers. He was born circumcised. he was born circumcised. 24 comparisons, my friends, no less, of Yosef and Yaakov, and that's why it singles out Yosef. Okay, but the Or HaHaim says these are all midrash answers. He wants to give maybe another answer. He gives a few answers, but he gives a beautiful answer. Lehodia, really, the pasuk is coming to convey Shehagam she'avru kama me'oraot ra'ot, even though Yaakov, yes, he had in his lifetime many misfortunes. Miyom heyoto, from the day he was born. Nirdaf me'esav, whether it was being chased by his brother Esav, or Lavan, or Amus tilaot, or he was loaded with troubles. Okay? Lo yahshavu kulam ke'ayin. They are all compared to nothing relative to the episode of Yosef. And ultimately, what the Torah is telling us is everything that Yaakov experienced in his lifetime amounted to zero when you compared it next to the tragedy, to the suffering, to the challenge of having to deal with what his son Yosef was going through. Ultimately, as a parent, there's no bigger pain. They say that you are as happy as your least happy child. And this is what the Torah is coming to tell us. Elle toldot Yaakov. This is really, if you want to know your Yaakov's life, forget about what he went through. This is the main challenge that he had to face, the story and the saga of Yosef. And it tells us that Yosef is 17 years old. Ben Sheva Isre Shana. Why is that important? It doesn't usually tell us age in the Torah, you should know. Process of elimination, we do the math, we figure it out. But the Torah doesn't usually give us the age, but over here it gives us the age. Or HaHaim gives two reasons. To tell us in Masechet Berachot, Leolam yetzabeh adam lahalom tova ad 22 shana. Person should always wait for a dream to come true 22 years. Because if you do the math, Yosef is 17 years old, and the pasuk says later on that he was 30 when he stood in front of Paro. So 17 to 30 is 13 years. And then there was 7 years of plenty and 2 years of famine until his brothers bowed down to him. So 7 plus 2 is 9, plus the other 13 puts us at 21 years, okay? So, 13 plus 9, 22 years, okay? So what the Torah is telling us is that when you have a good dream, when you have a dream in life, that your brothers are going to bow down to you. Yosef was 17 when he had that dream. He had to wait 22 years. And then, but Gemara says in Masechet Brachot that a person should wait for their dreams to come true 22 years. And I think it's a beautiful message, not only for our dreams that we have when we go to sleep, but our dreams for ourselves and our lives. We all dream of becoming something one day, whatever it is. We want to be scholarly, we want to make money, riches, own a home. We have dreams of our children and what we want them to look like, what we want them to turn out to be. But the Gemara is teaching us you have to have a lot of patience for dreams to come true. It could sometimes take 22 years. And we don't often live in a world of patience. We grow up today with so many things coming quickly, easily, instant. And we demand that our dreams should happen in an instant. You know, a person becomes successful. A person wants to become successful. A kid goes into business, into real estate, or whatever he goes into, and he wants to make it to the top overnight. And he looks at all the other successful pillars of the community, that they're on top. But he forgets that it took them 22 years to get there. And in life, our dreams will happen. They will work. But we have to grind. We have to have patience. We have to be resilient. We have to wait 22 years, so to speak, is what the Torah is telling us. If we want something to play out, it doesn't happen slowly. It doesn't happen quickly. Things take time to grow. Geulah, Mashiach, things take time. Dreams come true, but they take 22 years to come true. And I think that's a beautiful lesson that we learn over here from Yosef. And it's only because it gives us his age. If we didn't know his age, we wouldn't be able to do the math. But because it told us that he's 17, and because it told us that he was 30, and then another 7 and 2, so now we know the amount of years. Beautiful. Or did it say another reason it tells us his age? And again, Or HaHaim, he's so good at this. He just quotes Gemaras to prove text. Quotes over here, Masechet Kiddushin, page 29b, Chavtet. Gemara says about a rabbi. The rabbi says his name was Rav Chizda. Hay da'adifna mehaverai. Rav Chizda said in a bragging way, not in an arrogant way, but Rav Chizda said that I am better than my friends. The nasivna b'shitzar, because I got married at 16. And I have an edge over all of my friends who didn't get married at 16. They got married later on. And he was saying how it's advantageous to get married young. Harei, what do we see from here? Ke b'shitzar at 16. Why is that an important age? Because at 16, still lo yitgaber hachomer v'yetzer hara la'adam kemo b'shivsar. At 16, the evil inclination of a person does not assert itself over a person like it does at 17. Okay, so something big happens from 16 to 17. Maybe you are able to agree to this from your own story or your children. Something happens at 17 where a person becomes a little bit more excited about physical things. His physical side of his human nature maybe becomes a little bit more forceful at 17. Okay? So the rabbi got married at 16. He never had to worry about reaching 17 as a single man. So Yosef, because he's 17 now, that's why now that Yosef is 17, he is going to start bringing evil reports about his brothers to his father. And that only happens because, again, he had a surge of the more physical side of his human nature. Okay, so a fascinating introduction to everything that we're about to learn today is from the fact that he was 17. And we're going to see now how the Or HaHayim explains what set the stage for Yosef to eventually be sold by his brothers. The Pasuk tells us, continuing on the Pasuk over here, Haya ro'eh et Ehav. What does that mean? He would shepherd Ehav batzon. He would shepherd the sheep with his brothers. Now, to translate that loosely is okay. He would shepherd with his brothers the sheep. But if you read it, it doesn't say that. Right? It says he would shepherd his brothers. Ro'eh et Ehav. In matter of sheep. What does it mean to shepherd your brothers? He wasn't shepherding them, he was shepherding sheep. That's what you shepherd. Okay, that's question number one. Furthermore, open the Pasuk, please. It says right after that, Vehu Na'ar, and he was a kid. What does it mean he was a kid? He wasn't a kid, he was 17. Na'ar is usually up to 13 and a half. So what does it mean that he was a Na'ar? Our rabbis tell us, Haya oseh ma'aseh ne'arut, he would act like a kid. He would play with his hair, he would color his eyes, he would make up himself. Things that are childish. Yes, when you become a man, you don't worry so much about these physical things, right? Aesthetics. So Yosef was acting like a child. That's why it says, Vehu Na'ar. Well, what does it mean? If that's the case, ask the Or HaHayim, what does it mean, Vehu Na'ar et b'nei Bilha? He was a kid only when he was with the children of Bilha and the children of Zilpah. Why only when he was with them, when he acted immaturely? Rashi explains, Haya ragil et b'nei Bilha. Rashi says no. Haya ro'eh et Echav batzon, period. Vehu na'ar, period. Et b'nei Bilha ve'et b'nei Zilpah. And he was also frequently with b'nei Bilha and Zilpah. That's what Rashi says. So it doesn't mean that he was childish with them. It means he was childish, period. And he was with them. Okay? Two separate details about Yosef's youth. Or HaHayim says, okay, it's a stretch. Vehu rachok, it's a stretch. It doesn't say that. It says he was Na'ar et b'nei Bilha. He was a child with them. He was immature with them. Okay. And finally, what does it mean, Neshei Aviv? What does it mean that the b'nei Bilha, the wives of his father? We know that they were his wives. And finally, the Pasuk ends off. Vayave Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihim. And Yosef would bring evil talk to his father. Vayave Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihim. And again, this is, by the way, this is what started it all. It's that Yosef spoke gossip. We have to realize that Yosef, he wasn't innocent in this story. They didn't just pick on him for nothing. We have to remember, he started a little bit. He instigated. He was speaking gossip to his father, tattletaling on his brothers. Like the Pasuk says, black and white, Vayave Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihim. He would bring their evil reports about them to his father. But ask the Or HaHayim, What are the evil reports? Pasuk doesn't say. And the Torah is not supposed to be vague. Lo yistom ela lefarish. Why is the verse not telling us if Torah is trying to be clear? Why is it not telling me then what exactly he said? Now our rabbis, they do fill in the blank. Our rabbis tell us what Yosef's evil reports were. Anyone know what they were? That he would tattletale to his father. I'll give you a few seconds if you want to write it down. 3 things specifically that he would tell to his dad about his brothers. Number one, that his brothers were eating animals, a limb of an animal while it was still alive. This is called Ever Menahai. This is forbidden even before the Torah was given. It's one of the 7 Noahide laws. Goyim, even if they don't have to shecht an animal halachically with a knife, they still cannot eat it when it's still alive. They have to first kill the animal and then take the limb. So the brothers, Yosef accused them of doing this. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, he saw them picking and bothering the sons of the maidservants, Bilhah and Zilpah. If you remember, Yaakov had 4 wives. Rachel, Leah, the main 2 wives, and then the 2 maidservants, Bilhah and Zilpah. And each of those 2 maidservants had 2 children each. Okay? Just quickly, Rachel had 2, Bilhah had 2, Zilpah had 2. 2 is 6. Leah had 6 herself. Okay? Which she felt great about because she was 50% of the children and she thought this would give her love from her husband, right? So Yosef told his dad that the brothers, the 6 main sons of Leah, are picking on the other 4. Okay, that's number 2. And number 3, he told his dad that they are committing adultery or immorality. Okay, arayot. Or Rahim says, okay, boy, where is it here? Why would the Torah not say it why? If it's just through the words of our rabbis and Ruach HaKodesh, why is the text not clear? Says the Or HaHaim, the text is very clear. And let's learn one by one and we'll find all 3 are hinted to in the text. Number 1, coming back to the beginning of this pasuk, Haya ro'eh et ehav. Says the Or HaHaim, read it literally. He would shepherd his brothers. He didn't shepherd sheep. He would watch over his brothers to supervise them, batzon, in regards to flock, in regards to the meat that they were eating, that they shouldn't eat it when it was alive. That's what the Or HaHaim explains. Haya ro'eh et ehav. He was rebuking his brothers or watching over them in regards to the meat, to the sheep that they were eating alive. Beautiful. Next, Vehunar et bnei Bilhah means he was a youth with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah. From ever he was young, ever since he was a little kid, he would hang out with the 4 children of the maidservants who are Neshei Aviv. Why would he hang out with them? Because Yosef didn't view them as second class. He viewed them as Neshei Aviv. These are not maidservants. They are the wives of Yaakov. And therefore there's no difference between them and us. We shouldn't feel superior to them. They are also full tribes, full children of Yaakov Avinu from wives, not from maidservants. And therefore, that's what it means. Vehu na'ar et bnei Bilhah ve'et bnei Zilpah. He was always with them because he always was of the belief that these 4 children deserve to be treated like regular children. They weren't maidservants. And therefore, you see that the Torah itself is hinting to the sins that they did in the pasuk. He would watch over them with the sheep, making sure they ate meat correctly. And he was with the maidservants' wives because they weren't. They were picking on them. Yosef felt, no, they are legitimate. And they are nashav, the wives. Whereas the brothers, they probably viewed the bnei shfachot, Bilhah and Zilpah, not as wives, but as maidservants, which again, he goes on in length, which we're not going to go into now, but he goes on in length and explains that also lends itself to how they were violating immorality. Because if it's your father's wife, then you cannot be with her. But maybe they saw them in lesser of a way, that they were just maidservants, who knows what they may have done with these women, Bilhah and Zilpah. But either way, this is part of Yosef's gossip. Okay, So what do? You don't like your brother. He's tattletaling on you. So confront him. Talk to him. Rebuke him. Argue. Tell your dad, no, it's not true. We're not eating the meat. We're not picking on them. Have a conversation. Well, the next pasuk comes and says the following. Vayisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav ki ben zekunim hu lo ve'asa lo ketonet pasim. Now Israel, he loved Yosef. Yaakov, Israel, he loved his son Yosef from all of his children. And the pasuk of here is telling us, says the Orah Hayim, that although Yosef brought evil reports about his brothers to Yaakov, the reason for their hatred was not the evil reports. That's not why they hated him. Because reports, again, you could argue. You could have a conversation, have a discussion, have a debate. That's not why they hated him. Ki hagam sheyotzi Yosef dibat ahav, even if he delivers the evil reports, lo haya davar ra yotzeh, it's not necessarily a reason to hate someone. Hayu achim mitfachim imo. The brothers would simply argue with him, rebuke him, showing that these reports are not true. And Yosef would have stopped. But says the Orah Hayim, they cannot do this. Letzad ki nosaf davar ze she'ahav Yisrael. Because Yisrael loved Yosef more than them, all of them together even. And not only did he love them, but it was obvious that he loved them. It was clear. Sometimes a parent loves a child more, and they never say it, but the kids kind of feel it. Everyone knows it, right? Oh, we all know, Ima and Abba love that one the most. Come on. Oh, look what he got away with, right? We all know. We all know he's his favorite, or she's the favorite, right? You can say what you want, but we all know the truth. But the parents will deny it. No, what are you talking about? How dare you accuse me? Right? Parents usually, they don't, if they're wise, they won't, at least they for sure won't say it explicitly. But Yaakov Avinu, he said it explicitly. He gave him a robe. He gave him something that he didn't give any of them. It was obvious. Hareze magid sheyadu veyadu avihen sheyadu. It was so obvious already that Yaakov didn't even bother to hide it. He knew, and he knew that they knew that he knew. So he just gave him a robe, because what's the point of hiding it anymore? When the brothers saw this, that their father loved him more, now, see, the problem is not the evil reports of Yosef. That's not enough to create hatred. You could still argue. The problem is now that he favors Yosef, now there's no more room for debating, for arguments. Because whatever they say, that's why they hated him. Because their father loved him so much, they knew that even if they tried to argue, their dad would have already picked a side. Their dad would automatically believe Yosef. He would automatically believe him. And it's a moot point to argue. Because their dad would automatically believe him and not them. And now that they cannot argue with him, now they hate him. It's amazing, my friends, an amazing lesson in the Orah Hayim in relationships. Sometimes, many times, always, sometimes, right, we have difference of opinion with people. Whether it's in a marriage, whether it's with our children, whether it's with a partner, whether it's with a colleague, whether it's with a friend, we don't always think the same as the people around us. And it's important to remember that arguments is okay. That's fine. I could sometimes accuse my spouse of something and I was mistaken. That's fine. That's not a reason to get divorced. It's not a reason to fight even. People don't fight and get into hatred and divorced because of difference of opinions. What's very dangerous is when we don't create a space to allow for healthy discussion within that relationship. So long that the brothers could argue and debate with Yosef, and there could be a dialogue, open communication. It's true, it's not true, yes, but we did. So long that we could have a conversation, that's fine. We shouldn't get intimidated. Now the truth is, unfortunately, today we get very intimidated from conversation, from confrontation. On a date, right? In a marriage, a spouse does something, they upset you, and you don't say something. Because today we are afraid to confront. We don't like to get confrontational. I don't know. I don't want to create a thing. I just want to put it on the back burner. It's okay. I'll mevater. I'll let it go. No. Who said? Who said you can't have a conversation? Something bothers you. You could have a heart to heart. Sit the person down. Understand. Why'd you do that? Why'd you say that? That's very healthy. That's very powerful. The problem is when in a relationship, we don't create space for that. Sometimes I have an opinion or I say something, and the moment my spouse says something back to me, I shut down. Okay, you know what? Fine, just do it your way. Whoa, why? Why do it my way? Let's have a conversation. Let's have a discussion. I think this, you think that. Why does it have to be either I shut up and listen to you, or we just do it your way or my way? Why can't we have a discussion and see which way is the best? Let's try to see if we could come to a healthy agreement, maybe a compromise. Yeah? And when in our marriages, we don't allow our spouse to express their feelings, that's a very dangerous thing. When the moment the brothers feel like Yaakov will not hear their side because he loves Yosef too much, only then does the hatred enter into their hearts. So long that there's room that we could discuss this. And again, this is applicable in every relationship, not only in a marriage, but especially in a marriage. We have to remember how important it is to allow other people to feel comfortable in expressing their feelings. With our children, we could maybe punish them and they feel annoyed and they come and they express their emotions, their feelings. That's a very healthy thing. As parents, sometimes we make a mistake and we shut them down. No, don't argue. I said, end of conversation. I don't want to hear it. If you want to cry, go to your room. What are we teaching our kids in that? They can't cry next to us. They can't express their feelings next to us. That's a beautiful thing that they feel comfortable in arguing, in showing. We have to allow that. And so long that we could allow that, doesn't mean that we should change our verdict, doesn't mean that we should not punish them, but we need to create space for healthy arguments. And when the brothers feel that they can't do that anymore, then and only then does their hatred enter. Very beautiful and powerful. Or HaHayim HaKadosh. Okay? Well, finally, last one for today. Vayahalom Yosef. Now Yosef has a dream. And we're all reading this, and we see Yosef doing something that's so silly. You have a dream that your brothers are bowing down to you. You know they don't like you. It's very clear. They hate you. You're constantly in conflict with them, telling on them to your dad. Your dad favors you. Yosef's not a kid. He's 17. He's got a head on his shoulders. He's mature. Yeah, and 17 back then was very mature. Okay? Look at 17 in Israel. They're already fighting in the army. You understand? 17 is not always 17. We shouldn't compare it to 17 here where we live. Sometimes 17 here, the kid's still on a pacifier. You know what I mean? 17 back then, very mature. Yosef, I'm sure, is astute. I'm sure he's a wise kid. What are you doing? Why are you sharing this dream with your brothers? Are you out of your mind? Do you not think? Do you not realize what it's going to do? What do you think is going to happen? Hey guys, I saw you going to bow down to me. What do you think they're going to do? Oh, high five, Yosef. Let's just start from now. Why don't we, right? What are you doing, Yosef? Why are you adding fuel? This is the question of the Or HaHayim. We have to understand this. Why would Yosef increase the brothers' hatred towards him? By relating the dreams that he had about them bowing down to him. Umagam, furthermore, knowing that they hate you. Now, Or HaHayim says, maybe he didn't know that they hate him. Maybe we know that they hate him, but we're looking from the outsider, right? As maybe from a bird's eye view, we are seeing the story from behind the scenes. We know they hate him. But maybe in real time he didn't know. Maybe you'll say that. Anyone have proof that he knew that they hated him? Interesting proof. If you could get this, good for you. Hazaku Baruch. Give it a minute. How do we know that he knew that they hate him? Or HaHayim, he says, look at this. In a few psukim from now, we're going to read that Yaakov sends his son Yosef to go to Shechem to check up on his brothers. Vayomer lo, and what does Yosef say? Vayomer lo, hineni. Yosef says, here I am. Okay? Here I am, okay? I have that song in my head, I have a little baby at home. Okay, he says, hineni, I am here. Shemasar atzmo lemita. And our rabbis tell us that those words, hineni, is coming and agreeing to do something dangerous. So you see that Yosef knew going alone to his brothers was a dangerous mission. It was sending his kid into a lion's den. So you knew that he knew that they hated him. So if you know, Yosef, that they hate you, why are you adding insults? Okay? A few answers of the Ora Hayim. Ulai, number one, maybe nitkaven lo'odia otam ki min hashamayim he'eluhu lemala. He was hoping that maybe to tell them the dream would show them that this was heaven decreed, that he would be great. U'ma'aseh Yaakov hu behaskamat elyonim. Guys, you shouldn't blame Dad for giving me a robe. Dad was just doing what was already destined. It was already destined that I am going to one day be a leader. I'm going to one day be a king. And if you could recognize that, then that's why Dad gave me the robe. Which, by the way, is not a far-fetched thing. The brothers all respected Yehuda. They all saw him as the leader of the family. No one was jealous of Yehuda because, if he was given, because they knew there's always one king. Yosef was trying to say, guys, it's not Yehuda, it's me. And if you could see that, then there's no room for jealousy anymore. So that was maybe one reason why he told them, hoping that it would stop them from hating him. Or, number two, Yosef was trying to say, guys, hate me or not, but one day you're going to need me. One day you're going to come down and bow to me. Maybe, right? It's like the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avot, don't burn bridges in life, right? Al tehi baz lechol adam. In life, don't create enemies. Don't ever write off people. It's not good to have people that don't like you. You'll never know when one day this guy you may need. Can I give you an example? I officiated a wedding last night, and I spoke to the Khatan a few days ago, and he told me something remarkable. He said that actually he went out with a girl a few months ago, didn't work out. Now, it doesn't work out with someone that you go out on a date. So you say, okay, I don't need this person anymore. And you could sometimes break up with them in a not nice way. But this kid, he's a mensch. He's a good boy. He broke up with her in a very respectable way. No hard feelings. Although they went out seriously maybe, and it's always hurtful to break up. But he could do it still like a good person. And he broke up in a beautiful, nice way. Well, he went out with another girl, and he ended up getting engaged to this girl. And my friends, listen to this. This girl that he got engaged to, her roommate was the first girl that this kid went out with. Now just imagine that he would have broke up in a not correct way. He goes out with girl number 2. She goes back home. She says, I went out with this kid. And her friend's like, oh, that jerk. He's such a disgusting person. Stay far away from him. So you never know when you're going to need somebody. Don't ever create negative experiences with people. This girl that he broke up with ended up being the girl that recommended to the roommate, yes, he's a great boy. And they went out and now they got married last night. Baruch Hashem. So it's beautiful advice in life. Even if you're going to break up with somebody, even if you're going to quit your job, or you're going to decline an application or a resume or something. But don't burn bridges. Don't ever cut ties with anyone. You never know when one day you're going to need this person. So Yosef is telling them, guys, you hate me, but you may need me one day. I'm just saying. My dreams are indicating that you are going to bow down to me. So for your own sake, don't do anything, guys, that's going to hurt you in the future. Okay? Or yekaven, maybe. Another third answer. Maybe, just maybe, look at this. Yosef was hoping lekarev halevavot yachad. Yosef was hoping to actually befriend them. Why? The Gemara says in Masechet Brachot, page 55, Ki kol hachalomot, all the dreams, holchim ahar hapeh, follow the mouth. That is, that a dream has no real meaning. A dream's meaning is only going to come out into fruition depending on the way it's interpreted. Which is why the Gemara says, whenever you have a dream, first person you should go to tell them about your dream is someone that likes you. I remember as a kid, I would always go to my parents and tell them my dreams. And it could be the worst dream. They would always interpret it in a beautiful way. Mom, I had a dream that I'm going to get killed by a snake. And they would interpret it, oh, you're going to make a lot of money. I had a dream that I was, something scary. Oh, it means that you're gonna be very happy in life, right? What? How'd you get that from that? Right? It doesn't matter. It all goes after the interpreter. Okay? And the Gemara says, page 55, Masechet Brachot, make sure you go to someone that likes you. So Yosef, he's going to them for interpretation. He's trying over here to stick out his hand in a way of saying, guys, I like you. I want you to interpret my dream for me. Yadim ba'amsam, on their own, hopefully, ki libo shalem imahim, they'll see that Yosef likes them and he feels comfortable with them. He's coming to them for an interpretation. You wouldn't go to your enemy for an interpretation. But the brothers, of course, unfortunately, it was too late. He says, but there was already too much hatred in the air. And the gates of love were locked. And instead of seeing it in a nice way, that Yosef's coming to us, they saw it in a negative way. This is what we call in English confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the idea that in life, if I have a position, if I have an opinion about someone or something, then no matter what proofs you give me, I will use those proofs only to confirm my bias. If you believe Israel is an aggressor, if you believe Israel is guilty, no matter what Israel does, there is nothing that we can do as a country that will be able to come and placate and show the world that we are kind and generous and that we think about innocent people. There's nothing we could do. We could kill our own soldiers. We could go in slowly. We could bend over backwards. But if the world thinks something of you, you'll never be able to change that. That's confirmation bias. And unfortunately, we're seeing that today tremendously. People that have an opinion and a position, whether it's about babies. I mean, some things you can't argue on. You can't argue on a baby being kidnapped. It's just the reality. Or women being violated. How do you argue on that? How do you justify that? But you're seeing today, people have a very creative brain. They could say anything. It's AI, it's not real. And then when the hostages are returned, did they change their mind? Did they apologize for pulling down signs? No. They just create another story and another story and another story. The Dreyfus affair, I'm sure many of you remember this, the Jew that was accused of being a spy, and no matter what he showed, no matter what was done, they constantly just use that as proof against him, even though it was proof the other way. Confirmation bias at its best. And so the brothers here, when Yosef comes trying to say, guys, I love you, look, please, I want you to interpret the dream for me. The brothers only saw in that the opposite. You're trying to boast. You're trying to knock us. You're trying to show superiority over us. And they continued to hate him. Either way, these are some gems from the Ora Hayim. My friends will stop over here. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.